If your wife isn't a nag and she is a wise, virtuous woman, her wisdom will cause you to have no lack of gain. If you wanted to have a hedge against inflation, yes, real estate would be a play, and a good one. Moving some of your money into some mutual funds that are investing in stocks of companies that are gaining due to inflation.
If you're going to invest in jewelry, you go to someone who specializes in jewelry, not the shipbuilder. The shipbuilder knows ships. The jewelry people know jewelry. And the lesson with that is, if you want to learn financial things, you go to financial people. If you don't listen to fools who have no money about how to deal with and do with money.
Yeah.
Every year, your money has children. And then the next year, your money has children again. And then your money's children has children. The secret is, for everything that you get, 10% is yours and yours alone, yours to keep. You pay yourself 10% first. Should I listen to my friends or should I listen to my wife? Oh, the jokes are going to write themselves. Let's see this one.
Well, I wanted to give you a little quick history. I talked to you about 5 years ago after reading The Money Makeover, and at that time I was 3 years away from retirement. I called and told you that I had paid off everything but my house, and I wanted to get an annuity in my IRA to make my house payment. And you advised me against that and told me to take a withdrawal and pay off the house.
There you go.
Well, against the advice of my friends, I did that. So
against the advice of his friends. He did that. And so now he wants to listen to his friends again.
So I've been debt-free for the last 5 years. And
he's been debt-free for 5 years, and
That's
he thinks
amazing.
he maybe wants to listen to those same friends.
Yeah.
it's a pretty darn good feeling, so I appreciate the advice. But what's happening now is these same friends are telling me I need an inflation
These same friends. Should I listen to these friends again?
hedge, and that I should withdraw money from my IRA and put money down on a couple of rental properties so that they increase in value over the next few years.
So question number one is, how much debt does these friends have?
I know. Here's a good advice. Don't listen to friends who are in debt.
Exactly.
At all.
But my problem is I have quite a bit of my IRA in tips, staggered, so they come due at different times, and I bonds. So I'm making 8-9% now. I'm only withdrawing 3%.
He's making 8 or 9%. I have a hard time saying that you want to get a second job to be a landlord.
Right.
He's already retired.
Yeah.
I don't think so. We'll see where this is going.
So my wife tells me, why in the world would you want to be a landlord?
Oh, gee.
Smart
See,
wife.
I think alike.
And have leaky toilets and calls in the middle of the night and all that. So
Yeah, you want to go, hey, I've retired. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to clean toilets and listen to complaints from renters.
Yeah. No, thank you.
And
Or
you know how easy it is to make no money on a rental? It's real easy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And then have to deal with getting payments and chasing down money and
Exactly.
No.
so my question to you, Dave, is do I listen to my friends or do I listen to my wife?
I think if you want to stay married, you listen to your wife.
Yeah, why don't you call your divorce lawyer and ask him that
Because
question?
isn't the finances hers too? So the money is hers too.
Yeah.
So
well, it depends on what state they're in, because some states don't work like Texas do, but
Yeah.
Texas is a community property state.
Well, they're
so
in Nebraska, so
I don't know. I don't know which
Nebraska
which
law
one
is.
Nebraska is.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
of course.
Then we could talk about the advice, too. But, I mean,
I like how he
Proverbs
says that.
says, who can find a virtuous wife, for her worth is far above rubies. The heart of
Well, I
her
agree with
husband
that.
safely trusts her, and he will have no lack of gain.
Yep.
If your
I
wife
like that.
isn't a nag and she is a wise, virtuous woman, her wisdom will cause you to have no lack of gain.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the one we did with Patrick Bet David, the last one that we did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was. He's saying the same stuff here.
Yes.
I mean, Patrick Bet David just basically took the converse of that and
Right.
said that applies too, which decently well it does.
As opposed to friends.
It should be blatantly obvious, but sometimes people just need to hear it and get some clarity.
And there's lots of people have friends. I've got a few friends. So
You're not sitting
I probably have some friends. I try to eliminate the stupid friends, but you need to know what advice you take from which friends.
next
Yep.
to one, though. Just
no,
wanna make that
no,
clear.
George is not stupid. George is a lot of things. But stupid is not on the list.
But
so,
I agree. I think you can ignore your friend's advice on this one, and not because your wife is right and they're wrong, but because it's not a wise move for everyone.
now, let's talk about it for a second, okay? What is a hedge against inflation? A hedge is literally like you think of a row of bushes.
Right.
And tightly woven together so that the neighbor's dog can't get through, right? I mean, it's a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
A hedge is a blocker, a wall to keep inflation from getting in. All inflation hedges are investments that invest in things that inflate with inflations. So
Right.
real estate
true.
is a hedge against inflation. Investing in companies whose stock goes up and price goes up if the inflation rate goes up would be a hedge against inflation. Energy company as an example. What happens? What's a component of inflation? Gas price at the pump, right?
Right.
And so if you buy an energy company, you have a hedge against inflation because they are inflation.
Yeah.
And so you own a piece of inflation, thus it's a hedge. Real estate is inflation. The rising of real estate prices is a component of inflation. So that's a hedge against inflation. Tips aren't. Savings accounts aren't. So if you wanted to have a hedge against inflation, yes, real estate would be a play, and a good one. Yes, moving some of your money into some mutual funds that are investing in stocks of companies that are gaining due to inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So you are riding the wave of inflation rather than being crushed by it. That is the definition of a hedge. That's the essence of it.
But why does he even want to hedge against inflation? He's getting an 8% rate of return.
Right.
He's already ahead of inflation.
Because his friends are telling him.
Yeah, I know.
things.
Yeah.
They probably read something
So,
and was like,
there's a
he
book.
should do that.
We have one here, The Richest Man in Babylon. Everybody should read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Because in that book, it basically explains how people listen to the wrong people. There's this young man, and he goes to, he's working as a scribe, and the richest man in Babylon comes in and wants a copy of something. And back then, there was no Xerox machines, there were no copy machines. You had to do it by hand. And he says, "Can you get this to me by very short deadline, tomorrow overnight?" And the guy says, "Well, if you tell me what the secret is to being wealthy, then I will stay up and do this for you overnight." And he goes, "Okay, great, deal." He does a thing. The richest man comes back in, and he tells him that the secret is, for everything that you get, 10% is yours and yours alone, yours to keep. You pay yourself 10% first. And part of the lesson was, he goes, "Well, I get all my money." He goes, "No, you don't." He goes, "Did you eat today?" "Yes." "So you gave money to the baker who baked the bread. You gave money to the cattleman who killed the beef. You gave money to the farmer who milked the cow."
Gave money to pay your house.
Yes. So all your bills, everything. And then what do you have left at the end of the month? Well, nothing. That's what you earned. You earned nothing. The way that you do it is you pay yourself first, and then you live off the 90%. Now, the wiser thing, and for what we do with our company, this is why the SEP program that we do at the Palmer Law Group is like no other that any other law firm does. We take 25%, and we live off of the 75%, and we are getting phenomenally wealthy with that. So the richest man comes back and checks on the young man every year, and the first year, the young man went and bought. He invested his money, and he didn't. He took 10%, and then the man comes back in and says, "Well, what did you do with the money?" And he goes, "Oh, I threw a big party."
No.
And he goes, "You fool!
Yeah.
You ate your money's children. You don't do that. Every year, your money has children, and then the next year, your money has children again, and then your money's children has children, and then the next year, your money has children again, and then your money's children have children, and then your money's children's children have children." And what he's explaining is compound interest.
Right.
And if you look over time, the initial investment over enough time, the amount of money that you consistently put in is less than 10% of the true wealth that you put in. So if you put in $1 million over enough time, you'll have 10 million. or
Right.
100 million, depending on if you have enough time. Warren Buffett, who started investing when he was 7, he's in his 90s. That's why he's the richest man, or one of the richest men in the world. It's because all he has done is compound his interest. So the next year, the young man comes in and says, "What did you do with your money?" "Well, I gave it to the shipbuilder who said he was going to go off to a far-off land and buy fabulously wealthy jewels." And he goes, "Okay, well, what happened with that?" "Well, it turned out he bought worthless glass." And he goes, "Every fool must learn." He goes, "If you're going to invest in jewelry, you go to someone who specializes in jewelry, not the shipbuilder. The shipbuilder knows ships. The jewelry people know jewelry." And the lesson with that is, if you want to learn financial things, you go to financial people. If you and you don't take bad advice from bad people. So the next year he comes in and he says, "Well, I made an investment with the shipbuilder, and who built a ship, and from that ship we made money from this." And he goes through all these different business adventures. And the richest man 10 years later comes back in and says, and the man has become wealthy. He's not a scribe anymore. He's making money from his money, and he does very wise business endeavors. And so 10 years later, the richest man comes in and makes him his heir, because he was trained on how to manage the blessing of that money. And the richest man in Babylon knew that he was basically just the steward of that money, and that this young man he had trained up to be a good steward of the money, so that he added to that, which is absolutely biblical, by the way. But part of it was, you don't listen to fools who have no money about how to deal with and do with money.
Yeah.
Because and the other thing is that you have to start at a young age, and as you start and you start implementing these principles, it's going to take you 2, 3, 4, 5 years before you're even going to not blow your initial investments and things like that. Because you're going to get sucked into silly things like Bitcoin, and all kinds of stuff.
Well, you also have to remember, there are people out there that, even your friends, that get jealous by other people.
Absolutely.
And they want to watch that person fail. They want to see something happen that they can be like, oh, they're not so perfect anymore.
Exactly.
So you have to be very wise.
And misery loves company.
Exactly.
And there's also a thing called the need to be right. There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's a need to be right, need to be special, need to be appreciated, and several others. But this is they need to be right, so they're always trying to butt into your business, and they want you to act like they did, because then they're right about it if you are also doing it. They're trying to get social credibility for their own subconscious and their own psyche of them being right. And you should definitely not listen to them. Wisdom is knowing who to listen to and who not to listen to.
And so,
but aren't tips tied to inflation? So
well, they could be. Depends on what's in it.
Depends.
Well, I mean, I own tips within my IRA, but I bought.
But now he's defending his current investment portfolio, and he called about, should I change it? And now he's defending it himself. So this is the part of clarity and getting clarity in that, and maybe he'll get some clarity. Let's see where this goes.
They were purchased as bonds, so it's not a tips fund. It's
bonds,
an individual
bonds are
bond.
not. Bonds are not, because bonds are just a debt instrument. They've got a fixed interest rate attached to them, and that is not a component.
Maybe I'm using the wrong term. It's a Treasury inflated protected security,
right?
Is what it's called, a tip. So maybe it's a note. Maybe bond is the wrong word.
Well, it is a note, but it has a fixed coupon rate. That's why it's not a component of inflation. See, if you think of, lumber went up 3x during COVID, right? Went from $600 per 100 board, 600 per board foot or whatever, up to about $1,500. And so that is a component of inflation. And so if you owned a stock in a lumber company, if you were participating in 84 Lumber, I don't even know if it's publicly traded, but if it was and you owned in that, then you would be having a hedge against inflation. If you own a note that 84 Lumber Company has promised to pay 8% on, it doesn't change with inflation.
Yep.
But the price of lumber changes, and that company makes more money.
Yep.
So you got to be participating as an owner, not a lender.
I mean, unless they default on the bond, in which you get nothing.
Right.
I see.
And that's what moves. So if you're concerned about that, I would move some of my portfolio, and I probably would anyway, into some good mutual funds. Now, if you want to buy some real estate and you want to pay cash for it, and buy real estate that doesn't require a lot of leaky toilets and midnight calls, I mean, you could buy a little small piece of commercial a little office building, a little apartment or something, have somebody else manage it, that'd be okay. What's the size of your net worth?
Well, total with house, IRA, everything, probably $800,000, $850,000.
Way to go. Congratulations.
How old are you?
Thank you. Well, I'll be 68 shortly.
Look, if he's going to buy a rental property, he better hire a property management company.
Right.
And by the time you're doing and paying all that, it's not all that it's shined
cracked
out
up to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After hearing you talk, I'm probably going to sit exactly where you are. I'm with your wife.
And especially with his wife not wanting
If
to do
I
it.
was 68, about to be 68 years
Not
old,
add that
I would
stress.
not want to do that.
No.
No, do something else with your money. Something that you can, there's other ways to increase your money and
Yep.
yeah. Enjoy life.
Okay, she's going to be glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Good. That means he's
Yeah.
going to follow the instruction. That's the best part of the call right there. She's
Right.
going to be glad to hear that. That means he's actually going to take and do the advice just like he did the first time. So that means he's listening to a good friend and listening to the right person, and that's exactly what he needs to do.
Right.
Because you like predictability and precision.
Well, I do. I don't like a lot of risk in my investments. And
Yeah.
Oh, then he's
Then he should
No.
not do that.
No, he should stay right where he's at. He's
Exactly.
comfortable with his investments. He found something that works. If it ain't
Right.
broke, don't fix it. I mean,
Right.
maybe he wants to diversify out a little bit, but you buy mutual funds in order to diversify out.
Oh yeah.
And that index mutual funds, he can index them to there's mutual funds that'll index off of lumber and
Right.
off of gas and energy and things like that. If he wants to do that and diversify out a little bit, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And with the passive income I have and the money I have in the IRA, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
So I just don't know that it's worth the risk.
Not knowing what's going to be in the mailbox when you open it is not your play.
Exactly.
Right. And it is for some people. It's not for
Well,
me.
I mean, I own rental property, and I don't know if they're going to pay every month.
Sure.
But these tips are paying. That's a coupon. It's just going to show up in the dadgum mailbox or the electronic mailbox, whatever.
Yep.
And your money's coming. It's mailbox money. You can count on it. So I think your life is good, and I don't think I'd screw with it.
Exactly.
Because of the way
He doesn't really have bills.
Yep.
And he has no debt, utilities, and his taxes on his house. Other than that, I mean, the
He's
guy.
a free man.
Yeah, and he's only taking what he said, 2 or 3%.
And that's the part about it is if he's living on less than he's making from it,
Yes.
it continues to grow and compound.
Exactly.
And there's a magical formula. So as compound interest, it does like this, and then it skyrockets. It makes a curve that just starts to hockey
Right.
stick up. And what you do is you just take out as little as you can, and then as a percentage, if he's taking out 3% and he's making 8%, it's growing by 5%.
Yeah.
And that means he's going to double every 7 years. Mm-hmm. And so if he's got 800 now, in 7 years, he's going to have 16 or 1.6.
Right.
And then he's going to have 3.2 in 15 years. So when he's 80, he's going to be living on 3.2. Well, guess what? Every 7 years, you can take twice as much money out.
Right.
And so he's always going to have that. And when he passes away, he's always going to have that principal that's there.
Yeah.
And he can donate that to charity, give it to his family, whatever it is that he wants to do with that. But that's the secret is. A lot of people think, all right, I'm going to get $1 million, and then I'm going to spend $50,000 a year, and I'll have 20 years, and then it'll be gone. Like, no. You invest it at a 5% rate of return. It pays you $50,000, and it's always there.
There was a man who won the lottery who did that. He won, I forgot how many millions. And he spent so much a year. It was like outrageous.
Yep.
I think he was spending like $50,000 a month is what I read. $50,000 a month.
Yep. And it still grows.
How the hell are you spending $50,000 a month?
Oh, you can do it.
But he did it, and then he died.
You do realize that
He spent... but he died. He ends up I think he got divorced in the
our law firm
process.
spends more than $50,000 a month, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean,
we run our law firm on
I'm
it and
talking
everything,
about
but
an
no, I-
individual. I can't even imagine.
But technically, as the CEO of the law firm, I spend more than $100,000 a month. I spend, we're in the 6 figures of spending and
Yeah.
growing to where
But
we're going to be
that's a
spending 7 figures a month.
business.
Yeah, I know. So,
And what he was spending money on is sports cars. Like,
Really? Yeah.
Very fancy.
I mean, so if you have $10 million, and you're for him, here's the function. Let's say he had $10 million and he's at an 8% rate of return. His earnings are $800,000 a year. Mm-hmm. If he keeps investing and growing half of that, and he spends the other half, so he takes out $400,000. Mm-hmm. If he has that in a retirement account, it grows tax-free. Mm-hmm. And he only has to pay tax on the $400,000. Mm-hmm. That's about 100 and something thousand worth of taxes. Mm-hmm. So now he's got $270,000 that he can live on. That's $25,000 a month that he gets to live on. Gosh. And then the next year he can do 30. Why? Because that extra that he put in, that he's getting parts of that, and it grows exponentially. And in 10 years, he lives on 50 a month. No, 7 years. He lives on 50 a month. That's if he only gets the 8%.
Right.
And then in 15 years, he lives on 100. In 21 years, he lives on 200 a month. In 28 years, remember, this guy's not even 100 years old. He's Warren Buffett's age.
Right.
He gets to live on $400,000 a month. A month.
Jeez.
So once you have that and you invest the money, your money has children. Your money's children has children. Your money's children's 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 children.
My money would
they
be
all have
continue
more
to have
children.
a lot of children because I couldn't imagine spending $400,000 a month.
Well, if we charted out where you're actually, have you charted out where you're going to be at 80?
No, I haven't.
You should, because you're likely to be at more than $100,000 disposable a month in that exact same investment parameter. That's what's in store for you. And that's what
Well, then my kids should be really happy when I die. Because they're going to have...
Hopefully they'd rather have you than the money. But if you teach your kids this, and for example, at your son's age, at all your kids' ages, the younger ones even more. If your son, what's his?
Zachary,
yeah. So, Zach, I know. I once asked someone what's Greg's name. The answer was Greg. I just asked someone what's Zach's name, and the answer was yeah. Anyway, no. So, but Zach, if he took 1 year of his income right now and invested half of it, if he did that for 2 years, and he never invested and he just didn't touch that money, when he's 70, he has more money per month than we just discussed.
Mm-hmm. But you tick.
If there's a few million here, we might say, all right, it's paying cash for some real estate.
That's what I was looking for.
But $800,000, I don't think it's worth taking a huge chunk of that out to buy real estate.
If you're sitting on $2 million in that, I'd pull $500 out and move it towards some kind of a commercial real estate play.
And you love real estate, but real estate is not for everyone, and you don't need it to build wealth and keep wealth.
No.
People can do that with their mutual funds, with their 401ks and IRAs.
Do it with a lot of things, but you just need to do it with something that fits your profile, and he's got a very clear profile. Mm-hmm. And part of his profile is his friends are not trustworthy.
Time to find new friends. At 68, I don't know. You've had these friends for so long. Just keep
it's just we're all sitting on the front porch whittling with an opinion about economics. But yeah,
have anybody seen one of our episodes where we're picking our nose on the podcast?
That's what friends are for.
The longer we film, the more likely
wives are for too, and husbands are for. It's good stuff.
You should invest in things you're passionate about.
Well, so Shaquille O'Neal's investment plan was, and he's said this in interviews. He said, when I looked at what the fundamental business did, and if the business did good and I liked the business, when I started investing in those things, that's when it really took off for me. Things
you like.
Exactly. Things that you like, things that you believe in.
That is a philosophy of
have
Warren
to understand
Buffett himself.
Exactly. If you do not understand it, do not put money into it.
He eats McDonald's breakfast every morning.
And he owns a whole lot of McDonald's, and he owns a whole lot of Coca-Cola.
Share. Yeah. And, I mean, that's what he does.
Yeah.
Obviously, drinking Coke for him hasn't hurt him. Look how...
No. Well...
I think it all depends on your genes.
Well, I think he does it in moderation.
Well, Betty White, she drank a Coke every day, about that much.
Really?
She lived to 99.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And if you look at what she did right before she died, I think she was on track for 100, but she fell for something that isn't good to do.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. So Why don't every kid do that?
Because we don't teach them how to do it.
No.
But that's what we're here for, and the Lawyer Dana Show. And that's why you should subscribe and like, and we will keep teaching you these things so that you can live on plenty of money and be safe and secure. And if you live like no one will, you can live like no one else can. I said that badly. That's my first time. That's my Dave Ramsey.
Well, we want you to have security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want you to be good, and we're going to teach you the lessons in life that we have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to learn for ourselves, and we're sharing it all with you for free in this podcast.
Yes.
Nothing's
So
legal
keep watching.
advice. If you want to hire us, you have to contact our law firm, but we will see you in the next video. This is the Lawyer Dana Show.